Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And speaking of impact, our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, has been serving musicians with a commitment to quality, reliability, and exceptional service. Whether you need top-tier instruments, expert repairs, or trusted advice, they've got you covered. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. As busy band directors, we know you don't have time to watch lengthy professional development webinars, so we bring you 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to support you and help you amplify your impact and not your workload. I got some guests with me today who are going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and as I talked to them before turning this on today, I told them this is the book I desperately needed 20 or 30 years ago as I started in this career path for me, it was being a band director, specifically a high school band director, when women didn't do this. And that meant that high school band directors weren't also raising children and doing all the things. And so I was back in the 1980s trying to figure all this out, and it was really hard. And so today I'm bringing to you some the co-authors of a book who actually speak about why motherhood and music education don't have to be separate conversations and why being seen out here matters. And we're going to talk about the intersection of teaching and leadership and how you can do the caregiving without guilt and isolation. And as we talk about motherhood, it's caregiving, and it's more than just the mom, in one sense. It's a more overall arching. I'm losing words today, guys. I've taught middle school all day. I apologize for this, but they're gonna talk to us. So even if you're not a mother in the traditional sense, you may be in a role that you can relate to the situations they talk about, and it's going to be really valuable stuff from two people that have walked the walk, and they are giving back to our community through this amazing work that they're doing. So I brought them on board because I saw their stuff, and I said, "Would you come and talk on the podcast today?" So you're going to meet today Kate Fitzpatrick Harnish. She's a former high school and college band director and now teaches music education and serves as an associate dean at the University of Michigan. And her co-author, Bridget is professor and endowed Zimmerman Chair of Music Education at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Both of them are also moms of two kids, and I also have my own children here. So we're coming at you, a bunch of us moms who are passionate about what we do as musicians, as music educators, and in their case at the collegiate level, but also the mom life. And how do you balance all this, and what does that look like? So I want to thank both of you for being here today, and welcome to Band Director Bootcamp.
Thanks for having us, Lesley.
Thank you. Yeah. Usually we have one guest, so it's going to be fun. You're going to listen to us trip over each other as we try to juggle three of us. So, just bear with us. But first thing we want to do is I'd love to have each of you take a minute and tell us, there's always a reason you write a book, I can tell you right now. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background, your situation, and what led you to doing this. So maybe Kate, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And again, thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here to talk about this really important topic for both Bridget and I. I was a high school band director in Columbus, Ohio, and I, was hired at 22, like I think a lot of us are, fresh out of college, and ran a very busy, successful program. My program was in a Title I school. Really, we didn't have resources for most things that we needed, but we were able to be really successful regardless. But that being said, it took almost all of my waking hours to make sure that our program had what it needed. All of the fundraising, all of the evening concerts that all of the band directors who are listening know too well about. And I loved every minute of it. I loved being a high school band director. I loved my students. I loved the music that we made. But I did know that given the amount of hours that I worked the evening and the weekend times, that it was going to be really, really hard for me to be a mom in that same role. Now, my role, it was me with a 160 member band. And so maybe in a different type of a setting, that could have been a little bit better. But I didn't feel like those structures were set up very well for me to have a family. And I always wanted to do that, right? I mean, that was something I had always planned on doing. And just like with you, Lesley, I mean, at that time, there weren't a lot of female high school band directors, not to mention female college band directors, right? Our field has been so really male dominated for so long that I couldn't see myself in that role. I didn't have the role models. I had never been conducted by a woman ever in my entire educational experience. So I really kind of decided. I mean, I went into college teaching for a lot of reasons, but one of them certainly was that I thought maybe there might be a little more flexibility for me to have a family and do my job. Now, years later, I can look at that a little bit differently, and I think about a lot of different things, but I just remember feeling that way. So I want to acknowledge that that's probably how a lot of people feel about that world. I started as a college band director and music ed professor at the University of Louisville, and then was hired at the University of Michigan 18 years ago. And in my role in music ed, was on the tenure-track, as Bridget was as well, and had 2 babies on the tenure-track. And that was a pretty rare thing to do in my institution. And I also didn't have any role models for that people who had 2 babies on the path to tenure. So it's something I've thought about for a long time, and I've really thought about the high school band director and the college band director aspect of this, of having kids and of going through tenure and navigating all of those things. And so it was one of those kind of topics that I think people didn't talk about way back when. And so I always said to myself that, when I had tenure, that would be a conversation I would really like to open up. I did a study in 2013 on a high school band director. And then Bridget and I had some great conversations when we were both in that pre-tenured position and moving through tenure, that we wanted to do something to bring forward this conversation and make it not so tricky to talk about. So that's what led us to research studies that we've done together, and then subsequently to this book, which was just released.
Nice. And Bridget, tell us about you.
So my background is choral. I taught middle school choir for about 10 years in Michigan. And then through that process, decided that I wanted to work with teachers and get them excited about working with adolescents. And so I finished my doctorate at Michigan State and then started teaching at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. And after I taught there for a couple of years, I got the job at the University of Illinois in 2010. And it was around that time, or kind of the transition between the 2 different positions, that it seemed like, okay, well, we were interested. I was married at the time. We were interested in starting a family. And it kind of felt like if we don't get started soon, we're, we might not, it might not ever happen. So let's see what happens. And so it turned out that, like, my first year at Illinois, I became pregnant with my son, Luke. And that was a really lovely experience in working with people who also were parents. And that was just kind of welcomed with open arms, that you're going to be a parent and we can make this work here. And that was just never something that I had encountered in my position, or any sort of like negative reactions to that, which is nice. And then I talk a lot about this, but I became pregnant again a year or so later, and we had told everybody. And then when I was 17 weeks pregnant, I went in for a routine ultrasound, and there was no heartbeat. And so no one talks about how you navigate loss when you're in the midst of exam season in December as a professor, as a music teacher. I didn't know what to do. Do I email people this? Would anybody care? It was a really, really lonely, isolating time. And kind of that has been a big thing for me, is understanding more policy around bereavement and so forth with child loss and miscarriage. Went on, had another another daughter, and she's great and spunky, and so that has really informed a lot of the way that I approach teaching my classes. And then in conversations with Kate, we initially bonded over talking about a Disney trip, over a morning breakfast buffet at a conference, and we talked about that, and then we decided, like, okay, we should do something about this. So we've started a Facebook group for moms who are music ed professors called Roar that we have as a resource. And then, we did our study, and then that led to a lot of really interesting conversations and thinking there's a lot of stories out there that we would like to have a space where they can be told. And that led us to do this new book so that we could empower other moms across the mom spectrum and across the different stages of the academic career, and just start more conversations. So we're very, very proud of that.
It was super isolating for me to be a mom in the early 1980s. We didn't talk about it in college either when we were being trained. There was nothing about how to handle or juggle any of that. I wasn't prepared for the physical load of carrying and creating the baby and doing all of that, and then the nursing and the exhaustion while still teaching, and then doing it again with the toddler, and then doing it again with another. I mean, the third time it wasn't real, And like you, Bridget, I had a miscarriage in between my second and third after telling people, and it was horrible. I had 2 days to figure it out and then get back in the classroom. And I can't even remember a lot of what happened. It was traumatizing. There was just thinking about it now, my heart starts to race. And I think about, we don't prepare people for that. And the system certainly doesn't support it. It's like, gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that, but your planning period's almost over. You better get to class, right? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, there's some of the authors and some of the chapters talk about, one of our authors, Dr. Vanessa Bond at Rowan. She talks a lot about the physical toll of carrying twins, and like just just needing to ice her body down and needing the excessive naps in order to just function at a basic level, right? Like the toil on our bodies, and then the expectations of the job they don't meld very well.
No, not at all. I remember, God, when my daughter, who just turned 32 this week, when she was a new baby, I was nursing her, obviously, but the basketball team was in playoffs an hour away. So my husband had to put the car seat and the other child at the time in the car, follow the buses down through busy Seattle traffic and everything to the Tacoma Dome, where I would sit in the bathroom and nurse the baby while the bands were out there playing. And I thought, none of these other band directors, they were all men. And so there wasn't even any thought to that. And I thought, I better not complain. I want to be doing this. My ego was in there too. I had to do all the things they did, by golly. I don't know. We just feel like we have to do it all.
Well, and I think that's such a great point. I mean, I talk a little bit in the book as well, that, I wasn't in a place in a department that did talk about these things at all, and didn't have really great responses when I would bring anything up about my pregnancy or my kids. And so you learn to hide those things, right? I mean, you learn, because of that absence of vocal support, you learn what you should talk about and what you shouldn't, right? You're trying to fit into that model that's out there of the way things should, quote unquote, be done. And so that's, I think, the space that we're trying to create with this book, with the study that we've done, and also with different presentations and talks on this, is that you need to hear about other people doing this. You need to know it's okay. You need to know that, like, motherhood is one of the greatest experiences any human can have, right? Like, being my kid's mom is my favorite thing that I've ever gotten to do, right? So it shouldn't ever be something that I feel like I have to push aside. But of course we do, because we're in these professions where we haven't seen people like us before having these jobs, right? Or again, we've learned, because of silences or because of, the ways that people respond, whether we can talk about it and be safe to talk about it or not. And really, that is so incredibly silly. I mean, more than silly, harmful, right? That's the message out there. But the more we talk about it, I think, the more we try to make sure that there are beautiful beautiful, wonderful stories of women and of other parents too, beyond women, right? But for women especially who haven't had the chance to see themselves reflected in these roles, and to feel that they're represented, that their stories are meaningful, that they can see themselves out there. It means that maybe they don't have to hide that, right? Because again, this is an amazing part of what it is to be a human being, right? To have children is not like some shameful thing that we should push aside. So in our careers, to be able to bring that forward, we like to talk about the incredible benefits that we bring to our work because of the fact that we're moms. And music education is supposed to be a caring profession, right? I mean, that's supposed to be an important part of what we're doing. We're taking care of children. So the idea that that's not been a part of the dialogue, that's something we're really hoping to disrupt here.
How to take care of other people's children, but not your own.
Right? Exactly. Funny.
And when I had, I used to have student teachers, and I wanted to teach them how to be the best teacher and all there. And I think I did some of my first student teachers a real disservice in not being real blunt about how the challenges. I didn't want them to see how I was struggling behind the scenes or going home and trying to pack all the lunches and help the kids with it. And it was so hard. And I had a lot of female student teachers, and, we've had a lot of heart to heart since then. And I've apologized. I'm like, you guys, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you up front. Now my student teachers, they're seeing all the good, bad, and ugly. So they can go in eyes wide open, like knowing, okay, I've got some tools to deal with it because I've watched how Lesley struggles with it and some things she's done or what not to do even sometimes. And I got a bunch more things I want to ask you. But before we do that, I'm just going to take a minute and recognize our sponsors. If you're listening to this while thinking about everything still on your to-do list, I see you. One of the reasons I started building tools alongside this podcast was because even the best strategies don't help you if you're too exhausted to implement them. That's exactly why I created Band Director Buddy GPT. It's a productivity and wellness tool designed to think like a successful band director and support the real work behind the scenes, the planning, emails, scheduling, and problem solving, and more, so you can amplify your impact without increasing your workload. If you're a busy band, choir, or orchestra teacher who wants a sustainable way to do this job, you can learn more at banddirectorbuddy.com. All right, we are back. Finishing up here at Band Director Bootcamp's episode here is we're talking to our authors. And I need to say that book title again. Excuse me while I have to. Motherhood in the Music Education Academy. And that grabbed my attention when I had initially seen it. And that's why I invited Bridget and Kate here to be with us today. So let's take the last few minutes here. And you could you give us a couple takeaways out of your book? So let's say someone might be finding out they're about to be a first-time parent, or and they don't know, what should they expect? Bridget, you said you understand a little more about like different leaves maybe, or what can they do to better set themselves up for success in both the parenting and music education role?
This is tough, and I'll have Kate, you jump in here too. It's tricky. I think that one of the things that you need to do is to not just assume that your administration knows what to do. And so, unfortunately, part of the work falls on the parent, right? But talking to other people is a really great place to start. Other people that are, overtly parents, talking about policies, asking all the questions. If you don't like the answer, then see if there's other answers out there, right? There are many, many federal laws and policies in place that are available through the websites. Many, many acts for support of pregnancy and motherhood, and that people just are not aware of. And that's one of the things that Kate and I are hoping to do, is to be able to create some resources or some spaces where some of these can become more easy to locate and find. But I think, knowing that you have many rights as a pregnant person, and both during pregnancy and then after pregnancy, that I don't think are necessarily common knowledge. And so a good, time looking on some of the websites on health and wellness, but talking to colleagues is a good place to start. Kate?
Yeah, we I think we talk a lot about finding your people and finding community. And I think that's so incredibly important, especially again, if you're, entering into this really amazing time of your life, but also, of course, a little bit concerned about how you're going to make everything work. I mean, that's real. And we all go through that. And I mean, every day I still navigate all that. I think all moms do. But finding a community of others, I think, is incredibly helpful. I think especially finding people who uplift you and empathize and have ideas and strategies to share, that's really, really important. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that there are people, particularly people from previous generations, like trailblazing women, right, who've gone through this at times when it was so difficult and so challenging to do, who have so much wisdom to offer, for sure. It's also, on the flip side, important to acknowledge there are some people who've been really, really burned and have had to hide a lot, I think, of their job as a parent and their life as a parent. And for that reason, I think people do often pass on traumas and difficult experiences that they've had, right? So not everybody you meet is going to be the most supportive, cheerleader in your corner. And that, again, probably is because they've been through difficult things themselves. But to find the people who are just so excited to talk with you, I am always thrilled when I get to talk with, college students, graduate students, with colleagues out in the field, fellow music educator moms at our state conference, when we can talk and dialogue, other professors with other people who've been there and who've done that. I think there's this really beautiful sharing that can happen. And that's great. I mean, my professional partnership with Bridget has turned into this really beautiful thing, right? Where we support each other and understand each other and laugh a lot, and we can cry too. But it's, that means so much. So finding a community. And the other thing I would just say is to just ground yourself in your individual purpose. Like what is it that you want for your life? And I always like to think ahead, 20 years, what am I going to really wish I would have done here? And to stick in those priorities, and to know that that's okay to set your own priorities about what's important, either whether it's work or it's kids. They're both always important, but they can vary as to the day, right? Which one needs our priority?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about this book a lot more. I want to definitely read this, and I know it's going to become a gift that I will be passing on to others, because it's the book I wish I had a long time ago. You're talking about stuff that's so important, because the work we do is super important as parents and as music teachers, and so this resource, I think, is super awesome. This book that we've been talking about is Motherhood in the Music Education Academy, and the co-authors Bridget Sweet and Kate Fitzpatrick are here with us today. Kate Fitzpatrick, Harnish, I'm sorry about leaving that part off. Can you tell us, where can we find this book if we want to read more?
Well, you can find it. Well, it's published by Oxford University Press, so you can find it through their website, but it's also available through Amazon. Typically, most places where you can purchase books, you can find it as well. And there's a hardcover and a softcover available. And
great.
Yep.
We'll pick a link for that. We'll put something in the comments for people to grab it. But as you can tell, you can grab it just about anywhere, and it's worthwhile for someone who's in this situation, about to go in this situation, or who wants to be an ally of someone who's about to become a parent or a mother and navigate this often challenging space. So thank you both for doing this important work, and then for being here to share it with all these other people out there doing important work that need the support.
Thanks for having us, Lesley.
Yeah, that's a wrap on this episode of Band Director Boot Camp. Thanks to Kate and Bridget for bringing such thoughtful and affirming insights, and to all of you who keep showing up to teach music every day. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems and support that work for you, so you can amplify your impact and not your workload. Thanks for listening, and keep making a difference in kids' lives through the magic of music education. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to work harder to be effective. You just need better support. Band Director Buddy GPT was created for music educators who care deeply about their programs but are tired of carrying everything alone. It's there to help you think through challenges, streamline the busy work, and protect your time and energy without lowering your standards. If that sounds like what you've been craving, head to banddirectorbuddy.com to explore how it works and decide if it's a good fit for you. Thanks for listening to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast and for the work you do every single day.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you to Kennelly Keys Music, our platinum sponsor, for their unwavering support of music educators like you. Whether you need instruments, accessories, or expert advice, their team is ready to help. Thanks for listening and keep making music happen.